Hey, what's up? This is Al from the Be Cool to Be Podcast Out channel. I'm joined today by my man Andy Rodriguez from the Black Spinner Circle podcast. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing all right. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
All right. This is my first live show, so I want to thank Andy for helping me out. I'm not used to this stuff, so I'm kind of like learning. So he helped me out tremendously. So thank you, Andy, for that.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so today, being that it's St. Patrick's Day Eve, we're gonna rank our top 11 Thin Lizzy songs. To me, Thin Lizzy is the greatest export from Ireland. That's my opinion. Some people might not agree with that, but I love Thin Lizzy. I was into Thin Lizzy. I knew about them. Uh, since I was younger in high school, certainly knew about them. I knew Boys Are Back in Town, Jailbreak. The two or three songs I got played on the radio. That was really it. And then it wasn't until after high school I got like their dedication, which was a greatest hits compilation of them. And for the longest time, I only had that. I figured it was like, this is kind of good enough for me. I don't know. I really need to deep dive into Thin Lizzy, but boy, was I wrong. Because when I started really getting more of their albums, I discovered how great and underrated this band is. So that's kind of the last 10 years. I've really kind of gotten in more and dived into Thin Lizzy and gotten more of their albums and stuff like that. So that's my history on Thin Lizzy. Andy, I don't know, if you want to go ahead and uh, and let me know. I know you said that you're not that deep into Lizzy,
Right.
um, but that you like them. You have a couple of their albums, I think, right?
Yeah. I am. I had to deep dive for this show, and I'm glad that I did because I really do need to get a lot of their music because it's fantastic. What I do have is Jailbreak and also Live and Dangerous.
Yeah.
But I deep dived into so many of their different albums and different songs to do this top 11, and I was fairly surprised of how well crafted these songs are. Well crafted with heavy rock, but also very melodic lyrics written by the great, is it Phil Lynott or Lynott?
Phil Lynott.
By Phil Lynott. Wonderful writer. Um, such a such lyrics so soulful with
Yes.
rock with heavy rock music attached to it, and that's what makes Thin Lizzy different from anyone else. So I'm glad that you invited me to do this, because it is a band that I really need to get in gear with instead of just what I have now. I need more of it. So thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So Thin Lizzy have 12 studio albums, um, dating back. Their first one goes back to 1971. Their first three are very more of a folky sound. Um, they It wasn't until really the fourth album, Nightlife, that really they started getting like that Thin Lizzy sound where Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson came in and as the lead dual guitar attack that became like their trademark. Um, on the first three albums, it was just a trio with Eric Bell on guitar, Phil Lynott, of course, bass and vocals, and was it Brian Robertson on drums? So I'm sorry, Brian Downey on drums. Brian Robertson was a guitar player. Brian Downey on drums, underrated drummer in my opinion too. Um, so it wasn't until Nightlife, yeah, like I said, that they started really kind of becoming the Thin Lizzy that everybody kind of knows. So I mean, and over here in America, really, there was only like two, maybe three songs you'll hear on the radio. I mean, "Boys Are Back in Town" is the most well-known song here. Over in Europe, though, I mean, they have tons of hits, and the perception of them there is way bigger than it is over here.
Oh, wow.
So. But anyway, we'll get started with number 11.
All right.
Andy, go ahead. You can go
Yeah.
first, and then
Cool.
we'll go back and forth.
Cool. Thanks. Number 11. I'm gonna start off on the bottom of my list with "Don't Believe a Word" off of Jimmy the Fox.
Yes.
Um, there's times when they get into this really faster blues licks, and this is one of those songs that also has a lot of well, not a lot, but like a blues guitar solo,
Uh-huh.
and this is one of those songs that really do that. So that's what I'm going to start off. Is off of Jimmy the Fox, and I really like the album cover of Jimmy the
Yeah,
Fox. All the different colors, the maroons and the yellows, and it's pretty cool. It's
yeah.
pretty different, especially for that time of different album covers that were coming out. So that's what I'm going to start off with.
Yeah, I remember "Don't Believe a Word" from that compilation
Mm.
that I got because I was on there. So yeah, that was always a great song. Um, for those that don't know, it's called "Dedication," the best of Thin Lizzy. It's got I think like 20 songs on it. It's a pretty loaded CD. I remember I got it in the early 90s. I think it came out in maybe 91, not too long after I got out of high school. It
Yeah.
was out, and it actually had a new song on there, like it was an unreleased song called "Dedication." So, and I remember they did a video for that and everything. So yeah, I remember that song being on there. But my number 11 is going to be from the Nightlife album, a great, beautiful ballad called "Still in Love with You" with the great Gary Moore on uh, on guitar on that one. That's the only song on that album that Gary's on. But he plays some beautiful guitar, and like the lead work is so soulful and just such a great ballad. There's only Gary Moore. I mean, Gary Moore could do like so many different styles of music. He's such an underrated guitar player. Um, that's another deep dive. Uh, After like the whole Thin Lizzy thing, I had a couple Gary Moore albums, and I had to deep dive into him and get a lot more of his albums because that he's phenomenal, like all around great guitar player. He had his phases. In his last phase, he was more like in the blues realm, but which is this song is very bluesy and it's again a beautiful ballad from the Nightlife album. So that's my number 11. Still in Love with You from Nightlife.
So how many albums is Gary Moore on?
Well, he's on that one song, and then he's on the whole Black Rose album. So really, he's only on one full album. You
Okay.
know. So and
Okay.
Black Rose came out in '79. That was like their ninth studio album, I believe.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And is Scott Gorham on every album?
Scott Gorham is on every album starting with Nightlife.
Okay. And then he's all
So
the way through.
so yeah, from Nightlife all the way until the end, yeah, he was on every album.
Okay. So
Yes, he was on every album
okay.
because Ryan Robertson was in and out. Um, they had Snowy White on an album. Gary Moore on another one.
Mhm.
So yeah, Scott Gorham has been the constant since Nightlife.
Okay.
So
My number 10, I do have a little bit of history when it comes to Thin Lizzy. I remember my grandmother was sick and she was down in Corpus, and I was here in Houston, and my mom called and said, "Hey, you need to come down." So, I went with my uncle because my uncle was going to drive because I can't really drive that well at night. So he drove and he threw this album on, and I picked the title track for Thunder and Lightning.
oh yeah,
Um, he threw that on. It was something completely different from what I thought what Thin Lizzy was because it was a lot heavier. And I've read about it, and I think it's like their heaviest album. And I think John
that's
Sykes
good.
was,
Oh yeah, yeah. Go
and
ahead,
John
keep going.
Sykes is also on this album. So this title track really did stick out to me for Lightning and Thunder. No, Thunder and Lightning. And the
Yes,
album cover is pretty tripped out too. It's really got like a deserted road with like a storm coming.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so that's my number 10.
Cool. Yeah, that's considered like the metal album, um, with John Sykes coming in. Yeah, he rips it up on there, man. Yeah, my number 10 is gonna be from the Johnny the Fox album. It's gonna be Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed. So
Mm,
Brian Downey like kills on the drums on this one. I love his drumming on here. Real kind of a funky song,
yeah.
and Phil's lyrics are so cool on it. That cat's so sly. It's really kind of a cool funky feel to it, but great, man. I mean, like I said, Brian Downey's drumming's phenomenal on this. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Johnny Fox meets Jimmy the Weed. Now Phil Lynott, he slipped into my top 5 all-time favorite lyricists. I mean, I
Oh
think
wow.
his lyrics are incredible. He tells a story. He's a poet, really. And then I believe he's come out with a couple of books of poetry, of his poetry, which I never really knew, but I never picked up, but I need to get them. So I need to complete like a lot of more Thin Lizzy stuff. I have most of her albums. I still have a couple more I got to go because it's kind of hard to find like some of her albums here. You have to order them on imports. Well, now with the internet's easier, but back when I first started collecting their albums, it was a little tough to find. So, but yeah, number 10 is gonna be Johnny Fox meets Jimmy the Weed. So,
Okay. My number 9 is going to be off Jailbreak. That's the album that I'm most familiar with, and I'm going to go with the Cowboy song off of
okay,
Jailbreak. I really like the rhythm of it. It reminds
so
me so much of Texas and the rodeo and bronking bucks and it's okay, amigo. Just let me go. That's just such an awesome story, and Phil Lynott really the way he does his voice on this album, from singing to 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 sing talk. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
sing talk kind of thing. And
yeah,
he does a really good job of it. And the band really slows it down to this beat, and then it just pops right back at you. And it's a song that's played on the radio. And when it comes on, it's kind of a surprise. You're like, oh, cool, because when they say Thin Lizzy's coming up, you're thinking of something else. And when they slip in the Cowboy song, it's pretty cool. So
yeah.
that's my number. So that's my number 9 is a Cowboy song.
Yeah, I love that song. That's that may figure into my list later, maybe. You know, um, but my number 9 is going to be "Cold Sweat" off of the Thunder and Lightning album,
Oh,
co-written by John Sykes. Like I said, man, that's like their metal album, their heaviest album. John Sykes just he kills on this album, and he's such a phenomenal guitar player. Um, he came on my radar, through the Whitesnake days, but it wasn't until later on that I discovered this album with him on there. And yeah, phenomenal album. I think John Sykes is such a great all around player too. I mean, he and I know he's not watching, but if John Sykes happens to come across this video, we need you back, man. Come out of retirement. I know you having a whole album like ready to come out, and you're just reluctant to put it out. You know, put it out, man. There's a lot of fans that miss you and stuff. So um, he's just kind of like checked out of the music business. He's you know, doesn't really care. I know, um, like maybe 2 years ago or something, like during the pandemic, from 2020 to 2021. I remember he released this song like on New Year's Day. He released it just on YouTube, his YouTube channel, I guess, and it was a really good song, and I think he released the second one, and then that was kind of it. So, um, but he needs to come back, man. I mean, he did a lot of great stuff. I love Blue Murder and stuff like that too. So, but Cold Sweat from Thunder Lane is just a killer tune. And when I saw Thin Lizzy once actually with John Sykes fronting them in the mid 2000s,
oh
in a
wow,
place
really? I
in New
didn't know
York.
that he ran them.
Yeah, in the 2000s, he had there was a lineup where he was singing lead with Scott Gorham, and then Michael Lee, who used to drum for Page and Plant, was their drummer, and the bass player is escaping me right now, but I think it's Marco Mendoza was the bass player. He's been in a lot of bands and stuff. But yeah, they played at a place. It was like 2005, I think I saw them, and they
Wow.
played a place in New York, not the city, but out more in Long Island, and they were great, man. I thought that was a great lineup with because John Sykes has a great voice, and he did Phil Lynott like justice, like singing it, you know. And I remember I think they did Cold Sweat live that night, and which he co-wrote, so kind of made sense. But I mean, it was a killer show. It was really the only time I ever saw Lizzy live, and I'm glad I caught that lineup. I was too young, obviously, to see them with Phil Lynott, but
Right.
that was in '83. By '83, the Thunder and Lightning tour, that was the end. So I wasn't going to concerts yet. But anyway, Cold Sweat from Thunder and Lightning. That's my number 9.
So did they? So that show, it was under the Thin Lizzy name.
Yeah, it was billed as Thin Lizzy.
Oh wow.
Yes, but it was. I mean, to me it was pretty. I mean, obviously it's not. It can't be true Thin Lizzy without Phil Lynott, but
Right.
with John Sykes fronting it and singing, because I love John Sykes' voice too, and Scott Gorham in it, it gave it a bit of a legitimacy. I mean, I never saw them back in the day, so
Right.
this is the best I was going to get. They've had different lineups since then, but I never. Actually, they opened for Judas Priest and Black Label Society when Judas Priest was on their Ep.4 tour, which was supposed to be their farewell tour. They opened up, but when my friend and I got to the arena, they were just finishing up, so we missed their set. But this was like a later lineup when they have the I guess Ricky Warwick singing, and Scott Gorham was playing with them, and even I don't know who was drumming with them. I didn't really know the lineup, so I didn't catch them. But anyway, I got there late and I missed them. I was kind of bummed, but anyway, so this show that I saw in 2005 was the only time I ever saw them. But I'm glad I caught it. So,
all right, cool. My number 8 is going to be one we've already talked about. Still in Love with You off of Nightlife.
yes,
You're right, man. It's a great blues track. And one thing, and another thing about Phil Lynott is that dude, he sings with so much soul on the songs that slow down, and man, he really puts so much into his songs, and I was very impressed with the band. Very well done.
I love that song, man. I love Gary Moore. Gary Moore is great, not so underrated, and not very known over here. It wasn't really until like Still Got the Blues that he had an actual hit here in America. I remember seeing some of his videos on MTV though. Like back when in his hard rock days and stuff like that. So, but he never like really just kind of like went over that hump here. Never played big places. Unfortunately, I never got to see him live, which is a great regret of mine. I wish I did. But it is what it is. So
yeah.
So my number, what are we at? Number 8 here.
8.
Okay, from the Renegade album, I'm gonna go Angel of Death. It's got like that galloping Iron Maiden kind of gallop, but Thin Lizzy was kind of doing that before Maiden. Maiden definitely was influenced by Thin Lizzy with the twin leads, and even Thin Lizzy was doing the galloping thing, a little bit before Maiden. So really kind of I mean definitely Maiden was influenced by Thin Lizzy, no doubt. Yeah, it's a great track, man. Renegade's another great album. To me, Thin Lizzy never even put out a bad album. They had their run, and they kind of called it quits. And I mean, really, it's like they're from 1971 to 1983, so a little bit over 10 years.
Yeah.
And like I always go back to, man, and like I always go back to Andy. I always say is bands have that 10-year period where the most prolific and the best stuff come out. So they never really had that chance to really kind of put out mediocre stuff. They were kind of done before that could happen. So anything Lizzy album you get, really, I mean, even the first 3, even though they're folky, there's some good stuff on those 3. So, but yeah, I'm going Angel of Death, number 8.
Yeah, there's that 10-year thing that always pops up, right?
Yeah.
It really does. My number 7 is going to be off of Chinatown, actually.
Yeah.
It's Genocide Killing of a Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a different track for them. It was different from anything else that I'm, like I said, I'm new to them, but I really did deep dive big time the past few days. and it was such a different kind of song, even with the vocals and the background vocals on
Yes.
this Buffalo. It's kind of reminiscent of Indians by Anthrax in a way it was as well. So there's Thin Lizzy really did influence a lot of different bands.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my number 7.
Yeah. So many bands, cite them as an influence.
Yeah,
Which is it's justified. I think they were a great quality band. You
yeah.
know. So my number 7 is gonna be from the Fighting album. It's gonna be a song called Suicide.
Mm.
Another great track. And when I saw Thin Lizzy back in 2005, I just distinctly remember they started playing this song. It starts off with like the bass, lick, and again, like Phil Lynott, I think, is an underrated bass player. He doesn't get like mentioned really much in the realm of like bass players, but I think his bass lines are great and tasty and really, really, really well crafted. And he has a great bass sound too. And the bass kind of sound starts off this song. Dun, 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 it's really cool, kind of almost funky-ish a little bit. And I remember when they played this show I saw, Scott Gorham's rig went out and they had to stop the song. And I remember John Sykes was like, "Oh, stop!" Scott's rig went out, and then it was only like maybe 30 seconds later, like it came back on, and they restarted the song, and went into it. I distinctly remember that though. It was funny, man.
Yeah.
But you could tell it was live. Good night, honey. But you could tell it was live. I mean, that's what I love. When things like that happen, during a live
Yeah.
show, it's really, really cool. So yeah, Angel of Death from Renegade. Oh, I'm sorry, Suicide from Fighting. It's gonna be my number 7. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
the
Ian.
same thing kind of happened oh man, what's his name? He was the guitar player out of Canada. Not Robin Trower, but
Pat Travers.
Pat Travers, yeah.
Okay.
He was playing it just cut out on him. And he had to adjust stuff and hold on and he but he was really cool about it, man.
Yeah.
We're at number 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah. My number 6 is going to again off of Jailbreak Running Back. One of those
Wow.
one of those dude, this was a track that really jumped out to me the first time I heard Jailbreak. I was the first time I heard Jailbreak, I was driving through the mountains of the Smoky Mountains. And my buddy is like, "Man, have you ever heard Jailbreak before?" Because I was kind of dismissed Thin Lizzy. I said, "No, I've heard the thing, I've heard the hit songs." He goes, "No, do you need to hear the whole album?" And ever since then, I've loved that album. And this track sticks out to me, Running Back. It's pretty cool. I like that line. I think this is a song that goes the line that I make my living singing songs about you. That's such a cool
Yeah.
track. I mean, that's
Yeah.
such a cool line. That's my claim to fame. So, yeah, that's going to be my number
Yeah.
6 running back.
Yeah. That Jailbreak album, man, just from top to bottom is just
Yeah,
this killer, man. You know. I mean,
and I
really,
was
when
trying.
somebody
Mhm.
yeah, when somebody asks about like Thin Lizzy, like, oh, what album should I get? That's really kind of really the one I recommend to them, to start them off on. It's personally not my favorite album, but I'll reveal that at the end of the list.
Okay.
But you can't go wrong with Jailbreak. I mean, that album is just classic. You know.
And I
Um,
was trying not to pick too much off of there, but it's hard because
yeah,
there's so many good songs on there.
I know. You
Yeah.
you can't help it. It's
Yeah.
I was yeah, I mean, and picking the top 11 Thin Lizzy for me was so tough, man. I mean, there's just so many great songs, and I mean, they're all like phenomenal. So I mean, and again, Phil Lynott, man, I mean, such a great songwriter, and when he's singing, you're hearing the lyrics. He's telling a story, man. You could kind of, you can kind of picture it in your head, like the stories it's like telling. So that's what makes a great songwriter for me. Um, so my number 6 is going to be from the Bad Reputation album,
Hmm.
Opium Trail. Um, Love this song a lot. It's got such a great bass line in it, and Brian Robertson's solo is just absolutely killer on this. Um, yeah, Bad Reputation is another album that's great too. I love that album a lot. Um, and Opium Trail is such a great storytelling song. I mean, again, Phil Lynott storytelling is just, he's great, man. I mean, that's why he's in my top 5 lyricists now. I think he deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of like
Well,
songwriters. I mean, in my opinion, hard rock, and I mean, and Thin Lizzy wasn't just hard rock. I mean, they showed a lot of different styles, man, which is
yeah,
great
yeah,
about them.
yeah.
So,
I think they really did.
so that's my number 6.
It's like it's kind of like that Hall and Oates compilation Rock and Soul. That's
Yeah,
what really Thin Lizzy is to me. It's rock and soul
yeah, yeah.
and
They can be soulful yeah,
rock hard. And speaking of rock and hard, my number 5 is going to be off of the Vagabonds of the Western World, the Rocker.
oh yeah.
I like the way they stretch that song out, dude,
That's when they
especially
were a
on the
three
guitar.
piece. So that's
Yeah,
when they were. That's when we were a 3 piece with Eric Bell on guitar. Yes, that's a great one.
and I was like, dude, once I thought the song was over, but it wasn't over because dude, it just kept going on, and it sometimes there's long songs, but but they keep you interested with their guitar playing and their intricate guitar work. I know this one was a 3 piece, but later on, when they have a dual guitar, they really use it to their advantage. The same way that Judas Priest and Maiden do dual guitars,
Yeah,
because there's other dual guitars that don't, you know, you need to be told they're dual guitars. With Lizzy and Maiden and Priest, and because you can tell the different styles of the two different guitar players. So that's my number 5, the rocker.
yeah, man. I remember that song was on that compilation I first got to,
Hmm.
and reading the liner notes in there. That's what I kind of became known of like kind of Thin Lizzy's um, history as like starting out as a 3 piece, because this was like pre-internet. Nobody, unless you read magazines or got books on them or read like liner notes. And this compilation had some pretty extensive liner notes and kind of told you the history of the band and who
Mhm.
was in it and stuff like that. As the years went on. So I remember that one being like one of the early tracks on the album. I think it started off with Whiskey in the Jar, and then it went to that one. So it had like a couple of songs from the first 3. I mean, not many. I think only maybe 2, 3 songs, maybe if that, off those early albums. But
Okay.
that was one of the rocker, and yeah, I always liked that one, man. That was a great riff in it, and really cool. You know.
And so that compilation that you have, does it go in chronological order?
Yeah, it goes like from
Those are
yeah,
the
it goes from the
best, dude.
beginning. Like yeah, it goes in chronological order. So
That's awesome. I
yeah,
hate the ones that are
that
scattered
kind of jump
throughout.
that kind of jump all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. I like
Yeah,
it when they're chronological order because you can see and
the
hear how the
evolution.
band changes throughout the
Yeah,
year.
the
Yeah,
evolution and of the band and stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's awesome.
There's a box set that came out maybe a year or 2 ago. I need to get that. I know, like Chris Sinzak got it and stuff, and I think when you ordered it early, it got you had Scott Gorham like signed it and stuff. I mean, that
Oh
I didn't
wow.
get it right away, so that deal's probably gone. But I do need to get it. I think it's like a 4 CD set or something like that, and it's got a lot of. I think it's got a lot of unreleased stuff on there,
Oh, wow.
stuff that never made it to album. So I need to check that out and pick it up.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotta get started with getting their stuff because man, I was.
I know
I
the
mean,
catalog's been. I know their catalog's been reissued and stuff. I think like they have like deluxe editions of like their albums now too, which has like extra stuff on there,
yeah,
live stuff and whatever. So
yeah, they do because
um,
when I was streaming it on Apple, and when the songs
yeah.
would come out, it'll say like for instance, it will say like Jailbreak Deluxe Edition. So
Okay.
yeah, so they're out there. You're right.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So my number 5. I'm going to the Chinatown album, and I'm going to go with the title track, Chinatown. Um, this is the album that has Snowy White on it. I love this song, man. And this song was on that compilation, but I just love the riff in it. And it's, they take the riff from like the Beatles Revolution. It's kind of very reminiscent of that. That's kind of they made that like the main riff of the song, which is, I think, is awesome. So anyway, Chinatown from the Chinatown album. I love that song, man. The riff is so cool. So because I love the Beatles, I love Revolution, and that song just kind of reminds me of that song, obviously, because the riff is reminiscent of it. So Snowy White, he was only, I think, on that one album. He was in Pink Floyd and stuff live, and he came over to Thin Lizzy and did an album with them, I guess, when Brian Robertson left. So I thought it was really cool. I mean, he did an admirable job on there. So this song was a standout for me. So Chinatown, number 5.
My number 4 here somewhere. Oh, dude, this was such a cool song, and I heard it again today because I was coming back from my mom's today. And please help me pronounce this, but it's off Black Rose, a rock legend. Rosanduba,
Um,
Rosandu.
it's yeah, the pronunciation of that. I think Royce and Dub. I think that's
Something
how you
like that.
pronounce it. I don't know if I'm doing it right either. So, but yeah, that's that. But I just call it Black Rose, a rock legend. That's
Okay.
really, I guess Royce and Dub is Black Rose, and
So that's kind of like the title track then, huh?
yes, yeah.
And speaking of St. Patty's Day being tomorrow, that riff is purely Irish music on
Oh
that
yeah,
riff. Na, 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 na.
yeah,
It sounds like something that, like a riff that you would hear by Dropkick Murphys, but done with a hard rock sound. So yeah,
yeah,
the title track to Black Rose. That's fucking a great song, man.
yeah. My number 4 is going to be from the Jailbreak album. It's going to be Warriors. I think that's an awesome song off another awesome track off of that album. Again, that album is you can just kind of throw a dart, and it's got the hit on it, obviously, but there's so many other great songs on there
Yeah.
that, to me, it's like eclipses the hit. You know what I mean? But Warriors, man, that's one of the standout tracks for me. One of my favorites on there. So number 4 is gonna be Warriors from Jailbreak.
My number 3 is going to be a standout to me off of Jailbreak, and in fact, Ace Frehley did it on his Origins Emerald
Oh yeah,
off of there, and I think it ends the album, right? Am I
yes,
correct about that? So,
yes.
Emerald, man, what a great closer! It's one of those epic closers where the dual guitars just took over that song. It's like Phil Lynott just gave up on the well, not gave up, but gave in from the vocals, and they just started jamming. The
Yeah,
band just started jamming on that track. So I'm gonna go with Emerald for my
that's
number 3.
funny how that's your number 3. It's also my number 3. It's gonna be Emeralds. So yeah, that song is credited to all 4 of them: Phil Lynott, Brian Robertson, Brian Downey, and Scott Gorham. All 4 of them wrote that track, and yeah, phenomenal track with the nice extended guitar solo on
Yes.
there, and it ends the album like perfectly.
Yes.
What else could you say? I mean, to me, that's one of their crown jewels in their catalog. That song, man, and that's been covered by Ace Frehley. I think also there was another band that did it as well, and I can't think of. I don't know if it was Macedon maybe or something like that. There was another metal band that covered a song. I remember hearing the cover of it on
Yeah.
college radio station here, but But yeah, I always remembered Emerald, like hearing that cover and stuff. But the original's obviously the greatest. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love that song, man. Great way to end that album.
it
That's my
really
number
is,
three.
man.
Yeah. So you're
My
number two.
yeah, my number two is going to be the title track. The title track that you already mentioned, Chinatown.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
That's another track to me. It's kind of an epic kind of song. And in fact, I want to hear all of Chinatown because I only heard, streaming different songs.
Yeah.
I'll put on random. So
Yeah.
I wrote down the songs that stuck out to me, but man, there were certain different songs off of Chinatown that's telling me, dude, I got to hear this whole thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I think when was Live and Dangerous? For what tour was that for? Or when was that released after
I
for
want to
what?
say the Bad Reputation tour.
Okay.
Um, Let me look that up real quick. I think it's
So
the
like
Bad
after
Reputation.
Jailbreak, like what came out after Jailbreak? In
After,
order.
so after Jailbreak was Johnny the Fox,
Okay.
which was 1976. They both came out in the same year. So Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox came out in 76.
Okay.
Bad Reputation came out in 77. Yeah, it looks like Live and Dangerous was in 78. So it was for the Bad Reputation tour.
And then Chinatown after that.
Yeah, and then
Is that right?
no, Black Rose was after, and then
Oh, Black Rose.
Black Rose was 1979, and Chinatown was 1980. So,
Dude, there was a nice run there.
I know, man.
Dude, that was an awesome run.
Yeah,
And then
I remember they came.
Renegades.
I remember Scott Gorham was a guest on That Metal Show when I went to a live taping.
I
He
saw
was
that one.
Yeah, he was one of the guests, and he was promoting the Still Dangerous live album, which was obviously a posthumous live album, but it was them recorded in Philadelphia, and I think it was on that same tour. Let me look that up real quick. Actually, it was before Live and Dane. Well, it was recorded in '77, so it's still like Live and Dangerous was recorded on. It's the same tour as Live and Dangerous, so
Oh wow, okay.
Still Dangerous. So it was the Bad Reputation tour. That's a great sounding live album too. If you ever get a chance, pick that one up. But I remember Scott Gorham promoting that on That Metal Show when I saw him live on there. And the funny thing I think was he had Andrew Dice Clay on that show too.
Oh really?
And I had a question. I had a question ready. I was gonna go. I don't know if did you ever watch that show?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He had to stump the
Where
trunk.
you would step up to the mic and walk down the aisle, step up to the
Yeah.
mic and ask the question.
Yeah, he had to stump the trunk segment. And
Right.
I had written out a question, and I was getting ready to. I was in line to go up and ask the question.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Andrew Dice Clay, he was on that show, but not like on. He sat in the as a guest. He was like a surprise guest. He came out and asked the question to try to stump Eddie Trunk. So he was on before me, but he took up so much time that they ended up not able to take me for my question to try to stump him.
So were you standing in line? So were you standing in line behind Andrew Dice Clay, or was he in the crowd and stood up?
No, he came whoever was asking a question, they kind of took you out, and you were like underneath like the stage almost, kind of like it was like a little hallway, but nobody could see you until you'd come out.
That's right.
So he was out there, and I was like in the hallway, kind of waiting, and I could see him, through like the curtain. They had like a curtain there, and he took up so much time that they ended up being like, "Well, I'm sorry, we can't take your question." But when he was done, he was walking back up the hall, and he passed right by me, and I stuck my hand out. And he shook my hand like real quick as he passed me.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. I wasn't that mad though,
Oh no, of course not. You got bumped up for Andrew Dice Clay.
I know.
Hey, so do you remember your question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Eddie. It was a Rush related question. I was gonna ask him.
Yeah.
Um, uh, before Rush had their first album, they had a single called "Not Fade Away." They released a single first, which is an old Buddy Holly song.
Right.
And I was gonna ask him what was the I was gonna ask him, if he knew like this what the single was and who wrote it before their first album came out. That was gonna be my question. I didn't know if
Yeah.
he was gonna know that or not. But I don't know if I would have got him or not. I never got a chance to ask him. So
And then
I
like,
mean, it would have been cool if I got him and I won a prize or something. But
oh yeah, because the price was like a CD and a shirt
well,
or
yeah,
something like that,
you reached into a box and pulled something
and
out.
box sets. Yeah,
Yeah,
they would get like stuff out of the trunk.
yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, I got a that metal show T-shirt because I met him when he was. I remember when he came out with those books, Volume
Oh
One.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, my wife had bought me one that no, no, I was in line for him to sign it at a place here in Houston, and they were also selling that metal T-shirts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I went on the show, they gave you that metal show T-shirt as
Oh
part
yeah,
of they gave one to every audience member. So I thought that was really cool. I
yeah,
never wore mine much. I wanted to keep it like pristine. I, every once in a while, like when I go out though, I always see I'll run into Jim Florentine or Don Jameson.
yeah.
I want to wear the shirt and I want to get them to like sign it. It'd be cool, to get like all
Wow.
three of them to sign it, Eddie Trunk and Don Jameson and Jim Florentine. Well, if I get all three of their signatures, then I'll probably frame it after that and I'll put it away.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be
I
kind of
wore
cool.
that shirt quite a bit. I think I stayed with coffee once.
Okay, so you think you're number two, right?
Yeah, yeah. And in
Okay.
fact, the last time I talked to Eddie Truck, I was wearing that shirt because he was promoting a show. He was he was like the announcer for the Ace Frehley show that I went to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Ace Frehley, Accept, and Power Trip. I don't know. You remember Power Trip?
Yeah, I
But there
remember
was
Power
this
Trip.
metal band out of Dallas,
Yeah, I remember that.
and Sweet, which was they put a whole bunch of guys together, but the original bass player was still in Sweet. Was it Sweet?
I don't
Who
know.
did Ballroom Blitz?
Yeah, the Sweet.
Sweet, yes, Sweet was on the bill, and so was Pat Travers was on the bill. It was that same day,
Okay.
and I went to go ask Eddie Truck what he thought about the new Ace Frehley because that's when that Brooklyn Boy album had just came out, and I was so drunk my wife thought I was gonna throw up on Eddie Trunk. But I got my question out there to him because he was kind of like in the crowd.
Yeah.
So I was, my wife saw, I was so embarrassed. We were talking to him. I thought you were going to throw up. So we're at
Oh man.
number
So
one,
yeah.
right?
So well, I didn't do my number two yet.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's right.
so my number two is gonna be Black Rose, a rock legend. Um, so I'm gonna say now that Black Rose, the album, is actually my favorite Thin Lizzy album.
Okay.
I love Gary Moore on there, and I thought Gary and Scott Gorham made a great team. As a matter of fact, I think, and I haven't picked it up yet, but they released their documentary on them on DVD, and as a bonus disc, there's a live show on there, a live concert on DVD, a visual of a show from that tour. And I think I'm not. I want to say it's like Australia. I'm not positive though, so it might be. But yeah, guys, Scott Gorham and Gary Moore are on there, and they're just wicked, man. Trading off leads and stuff like that. This song is just so I don't know, it's so epic to me, and I to me it's almost kind of I put it on par as like kind of like their Stairway to Heaven almost because it just
Yeah.
kind of takes you through a journey. It's so cool, like such an epic feel to it. And like I said, Gary Moore and Scott Gorham, man, they made a great team. I kind of wish they made more than one album together on here, but this one album that they did happens to be my favorite Thin Lizzy album. So yeah, Black Rose and Rock Legend from Black Rose. That's gonna be my number 2.
Oh,
And
cool.
then we're gonna get to our number 1. We're gonna have 4 honorable mentions too after this. Um, but our number 1, man,
Yeah.
there you go. Andy, go ahead.
My number 1. It's no big surprise. It's my favorite song by Thin Lizzy. The Boys Are Back in Town. I love that song. I was introduced by the band with that song, and not just that. You really, when you're listening to the song, you can visualize, you know, hanging out at Vito's. You can at Dino's. I'm sorry. You can see them in a club dancing, and this girl, he got up and she slapped Johnny's face, and you can see all this stuff going on.
Yeah,
And the boys
it's a
want to
story.
fight, you better let them.
It's the storytelling,
Yeah,
thing that Phil Lynott does, man.
yeah. So that's why I picked that as my favorite because it really is. So the boys are back in town off of
Nothing
Jailbreak.
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah,
Um, well, my number 1, it's actually not from my favorite album, but um, I there's something about this song that evokes an emotion for me. I don't know, man. The way the guitars sound and just the way this song is constructed, and I love the storytelling aspect of this song too. You could just kind of picture yourself riding on a horse through the desert, man, and it's gonna be the cowboy song. That's
oh,
my favorite song of Thin Lizzy, and I mean, to some it might be, oh, it's my favorite. And to some others, it might not be, but I don't know. There's something about this song that always like I almost kind of get emotional like when I hear it. I don't know why. It's the combination of the twin guitars in it, the way the guitars are harmonizing with each other, and just his lyric, his storytelling. It gets me a little misty eyed,
yeah,
figuring that Phil Lynott's not around anymore, so um, it's kind of a combination of those things. And I don't know. Every time I heard this song, I always just get like it makes me happy, like hearing it. It's not like it makes me sad. It's
right.
just like a happy feeling, but it's almost like I kind of get emotional too at the same time. It's just kind of hard to explain, but yeah, I love that song. Jailbreak, again, great album.
Yeah.
Cowboy song, and Anthrax with John Bush did a great cover of this one. I remember getting a CD single of theirs that had this as like the B side, and I bought it mainly for that because they did the Kiss cover and the Cowboy song. So it was during the John Bush era, and they did a great cover of this too. But I love the Lizzy versions, definitive. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Cowboy songs. Cowboy songs my number 1, man. So
and it's so weird because, well, not weird, but that song, there's parts of that song that sound like a score of a movie. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
you could
Where
put
it
that like
sets
in a
the mood.
western. You could put that like in a western movie, man. It
Yeah,
would fit. You know,
yeah,
it's just has he had this way of like writing, like I don't know. He has a couple of songs reminiscent of like kind of like riding out in the wilderness or or like in the desert or even like through the forest. He had this way of storytelling, man. It was just kind of really really cool, man.
yeah.
I thought Phil Lynott was like one of the coolest rock stars, man.
Man, man, he had the look, he had the posture.
Yeah, he was just
Unfortunately, he also had the excess of a
yeah
rock star. Unfortunately,
yeah.
but
Unfortunately,
yeah, yeah.
got
To
him.
hear that song on like a Clint Eastwood movie in the '70s.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a great
So
song.
so we'll go through. I mean, I did like asked to do like 4 honorables to make it like an odd 15 instead of being even, making it
Right.
odd. But yeah, go ahead, man. If you want to just run through like your 4, if you even have more, you can do
No,
more or
I did
whatever.
the
But
4.
yeah,
Off of the only song off of Bad Reputation for me, "Dancing in the Moonlight."
mm,
I thought that was a cool track. It was kind of a mellow track, and in fact, these are going to be mellow tracks actually. With Love off of Black Rose.
Okay, yeah.
Was Love. And also one of my favorite songs that I wanted to put it on my list, but I had already had too many Jailbreak songs. But Romeo and the Lonely Girl.
Oh, great song, man.
Never judge its lover by its cover. Love that track.
Yeah,
And then my last honorable mention is gonna be Wild One off of Fighting.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. Great picks again, man. Like it's hard to pick a shitty. There's not to me. I don't think there's like a shitty Thin Lizzy song. To be
No,
honest,
no,
man.
man. It was pretty simple because, like I said, I'm not very versed on them. But when I put
I'm
them on
telling you,
random, I was like, "Dude, this is a good song.
I'm
This is
telling
a
you,
good
once you
song."
start, yeah, I'm telling you, once you start going through their albums, you start listening to their albums complete. You're
Yeah,
gonna really see like the quality of like this band. It was just just great, man. My honorables are gonna be from the Black Rose album, "Waiting for an Alibi." I love that song. I thought that was great. That song was actually on that compilation CD that I had from way back. I'm gonna go with the title track, "The Jailbreak." I always love that riff.
yeah,
That's one of the songs that gets played on the radio here once in a while too. But I think it's a great song. The title track from "Bad Reputation," "Bad Reputation," another killer riff. That's only Thin Lizzy can do. And then from Johnny the Fox, I'm going "Massacre," which I thought was a really, really cool song. Johnny the Fox, another great album. That's a favorite among a lot of Lizzy fans. That album, Johnny the Fox. And again, yeah, like you said, man, I love that album cover. They had some cool album covers too.
yeah,
So
yeah. They did. Like
yeah,
especially even Jailbreak with like the cartoon comic strip kind of, through the eyeglasses. It looks really cool. I mean, they were very imaginative with their album covers.
yeah, yeah.
As they went on. You know,
So that's our Thin Lizzy ranking, and for everybody out there, happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. Andy, what do you got going on in the future shows?
yeah, I am going to on over on Black Spinner Circle. I'm going to be doing the top 10 plus five honorable mentions of the albums of 1973.
And I will be on that.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's going to be a good show. I'm excited for that show.
Cool,
So
man. Cool.
it's been a while since we've done a year. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
we're doing there.
and it's always fun doing the year ones, man, because you kind of like pull up a list and you're like, wow, this year had a lot of great albums, and you kind of forget about like certain ones, and it kind of makes you revisit them. And I love doing the year things. And
Oh man, well, what a
1972,
year!
1973 was certainly a great year in music.
Yeah,
So, look, the kind of remembering, not gonna reveal anything because I kind of started looking at the year to pick some albums,
yeah.
but yeah, that's gonna be a good show. So I can't wait for that.
Then
For
that'll be
me,
that'll be next Wednesday at 8 p.m.
yes.
I'm excited.
Your time will be 9 p.m. Eastern for me.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I got Steel Panther coming up Saturday. I'm gonna go check them
Yeah.
out. They got Crowbot opening for them, and Tragedy. They do Bee Gees songs and like hard rock, heavy metal versions
Oh,
of them. So
interesting.
that should be interesting to check
Yeah.
out. It'd be a fun night out with a couple friends of mine. Um,
Cool.
I'm gonna be starting to do a little segment on my channel. I haven't done it yet. I mean, it's been hard for me to do content on my channel because I'm not in my own house. I'm in my parents' house.
Yeah.
So there's always kind of commotion going on here and stuff. So, but I don't have like my own little office to kind of do it in. So that's why my content's been lacking on my channel. But I'm going to be doing more shows on my own, and I want
Okay.
to. My daughter and I are going to be doing this segment on my channel called Knowledge Nerds. We're just going to kind of nerd on, and just talk about stuff that we love, and just
Yeah.
kind of just I'm just gonna let it roll, and we'll just conversate and see where it goes, and should be cool. My daughter's really into video games, and she's into music and movies and cartoons, and so we'll just we'll throw stuff at each other like, hey, this.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. Y'all can learn off of each other. That'll be
yeah,
fun to watch.
yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
it's gonna be called Knowledge Nerds. So hopefully, I want to do it like the first episode maybe this weekend, maybe Sunday. It's gonna be a tape show, and then I'll throw it up on my YouTube channel, and then
Awesome.
um,
Cool.
but I'm gonna be doing more live shows like this, and just look out for them. So, and that's really it, man. So,
Awesome.
Andy, I really appreciate you helping me out on this first one.
Oh man, it was my pleasure. Thank you for asking me, because dude, I found a new band that I can obsess over.
Hey man, it's Thin Lizzy, man. You got to spread the word, and I got to give a shout out from over at Sea and Tranquility, Butch Jones, man. He's the biggest Thin Lizzy fan, like I know, and Pete Pardo too, that does the Sea and Tranquility. Those two, they have a cool show, like where the two of them are ranking their Thin Lizzy albums, and they pick their top 10 Lizzy songs. So I learned a lot from those guys, about like Thin Lizzy and stuff, because you want to be very well versed in Thin Lizzy, man. Go to Butch Jones's page, his butcher shop, and he'll school you on that, man. So shout out to you, Butch. I'm cool with him on like Facebook and everything. He's a cool dude. So thanks for watching, and till next time, man. Thanks a lot, Andy. I appreciate it.
Hey man, thanks a lot for having me out. It was a pleasure.
No problem. Cheers, everybody. Have a good night.